Mercedes joins the NACS movement. Finally, the Germans are coming. Never thought I'd be so excited to say that in existence. But while yes, I voted this on previous polls in the past, I genuinely thought that with the Electrify America announcement of NACS adoption, that Volkswagen was just around the corner, right? They had to be, because they basically own Electrify America. But I think the only holdup potentially is the fact that VW owns a lot of sub-brands like Audi and Porsche that are relying on higher voltage architectures, and they're probably waiting for Tesla to give some kind of concrete confirmation on whether or not V3 superchargers are going to be upgraded to support 1000 volt charging, which yes, it is possible. The stalls, the cables, the port is all capable of doing up to 1000 volts. It's just the cabinets on the back end that need to be retrofitted and upgraded. But that's not really the same story with Mercedes. So thankfully, the luxury focused brand that has made the EQS and the EQE, they also will have access, just like everybody else, to the Supercharger network via an adapter in 2024. And they said officially, just like everybody else, yeah, they'll be switching to the NACS port on their vehicles in 2025. So another check off the box. Now I guess the question comes down to, will it be BMW next, or will it be Volkswagen? Or could it be Toyota? Because they apparently have some really fast charging battery tech ready. At least they've been claiming that for the past 8 years, and it's still not ready. But if you really want a fast charging EV in the future, Toyota, you better adopt a connector that can support those higher charging speeds, the NACS one, and they're not building that many EVs in the first place. So I feel like the transition for Toyota should be super easy, and at least in the United States market, it shouldn't be that hard for Honda because they're basically not shipping any EVs here anyway. So we've only got a couple of brands left on this transition to NACS, but it's once again very encouraging and exciting to see another brand jumping on the superior connector train, as well as even motorcycle brands like Verge announcing that they will be switching to NACS on their all-electric motorcycles. Much smaller vehicle, of course, so why not use a smaller port? I'm sure they could take advantage of that space. They're probably very excited to drop that bulky CCS1 connector. But seeing all of these announcements, both from Electrify America and now Mercedes as well, it's really making me start to think that Lucid is most likely to be the last company to switch to NACS, because Peter Rawlinson has been pretty much the one voice in this ocean of praise behind the NACS connector, saying that it's not that important and people are getting overhyped around the little cork of a wine bottle or something. And personally, I think Peter is completely missing the mark on this one. The transition to electric vehicles needs to be made simpler. It needs to be easier for people to understand, and making sure that we all have the same connector and the same ports on all of our charge stations and cars is a crucial step in the simplification of this transition. And I don't think you can just write that off and say like, oh, it's not that important. What matters is high voltage charging, and the connector at the end of the day, not a big deal. To me, I think his statements are going to be aging horribly, and I hope that Mercedes can be of some influence on Lucid, because they are, I think, the most well-known brand when it comes to luxury vehicles, and most people out there I've seen have said that the EQS is far more luxurious than a Lucid Air. So by all means, if you want to look at Lucid as this niche luxury brand, they're going to be compared a lot to Mercedes, and now that one of their biggest alternative competitors making high-end luxurious sedans and crossovers, now that they're switching to NACS and going to have access to the Supercharger network, there's just one more reason to not consider going with a Lucid now, because if your goal is to have the most luxurious and well thought out charging experience, why would you buy the car with the inferior charging network, with the inferior charging port, and probably the slower charging speeds? If you're reliant on Electrify America saying, oh, well, they have 350 kilowatts, I can fast charge with them, and then you experience that signet surge that we've seen everybody face, yeah, it's not worth the money. So I think the charging speed argument is not going to be prioritized as much as the charger reliability argument, and having access to the Supercharger network and getting those reasonably fast speeds, you know, over 200 kilowatts, I think that's going to be a whole lot more desirable than just saying, yeah, Electrify America, that's good enough, we don't need anybody else. Clearly, that's not going to work. And yes, it's true that switching to NACS doesn't suddenly make all of these broken chargers start working better. The problem with continuing your support of CCS1 and just assuming, oh, the port doesn't matter all that much, all that matters is high voltage charging, is that, well, Lucid, you didn't build out your own charging network. You put all your eggs in the same basket with Electrify America, and this is a crappy basket. All the eggs are falling out the bottom. The charging experience is horrible. It's unreliable. It's been that way for years. I think it has literally been a deal breaker for a ton of your customers. And it's not so much about the NACS connector being so much more superior, but it is. What matters more is that EV owners customers have options. If they are fed up with Electrify America or ChargePoint, now they have the choice to go to the far larger, more reliable Supercharger network, and they can plug in and get where they need to go. That's why so many people buy Teslas despite the bad build quality, despite the fact that they use less luxurious materials than Lucid. A lot of people will still take a Tesla over a Lucid, even if it's not a question of money, simply for that supercharger access. And Lucid can't switch yet because they focus so much on this higher voltage architecture, which means if they did adopt NACS right now, they would be stuck with 50 kilowatt slow charging speeds. So GM accommodated for this by allowing their battery pack to be split in half and turn into a 400 volt pack, so GM can take advantage of the higher speed superchargers as needed. And Hyundai and Kia and Lucid, they didn't prioritize that because they weren't aware it was going to be available. But now that so many people have switched, my hope is that they're having these discussions right now. It's rumored that Hyundai and Kia are actively discussing things with Tesla to try to ensure, I'm guessing, all of that conversation is just about the higher voltage charging, which is the right way to go about this. Hyundai and Kia, while they weren't aware that they should build their battery packs in a way that can be split like GM's do, I think it's important to be having those ongoing conversations with Tesla and basically sending the message to their customers that yes, we want to adopt NACS. We would like to have access to the supercharger network. We just want to make sure that it's actually, gonna work and have decent charging speeds. That's the right way to go about it, not Lucid's approach and just say, none of this matters. The future is adapters. The future is this bulky, inefficient charge port design. For a company that prides itself so much on elegance and efficient design and smart design, like Lucid has some incredibly talented engineers that have developed a state-of-the-art powertrain, an incredibly energy-dense battery pack. I feel like they should appreciate the NACS port a lot more. And I think the narrative Lucid should be pushing right now is not that NACS doesn't matter, it's that we need to have superchargers with higher voltage charging before we can switch to NACS. Not that, there's no point to switch to NACS, we don't need NACS. Honestly, I think CCS1 is going to slowly turn into the Betamax of the EV world. This does not want to be a hill you die on, Lucid. This is not something that you're going to want to sit around and defend. It's going to age horribly, and as a company that cares so much about efficiency and smart design and higher voltage speeds, you should be praising NACS and saying that you are actively discussing with Tesla how to incorporate this connector or how to incorporate supercharger access into your vehicle. The response of just saying none of this matters and CCS1 is fine, that's awkward. And Mercedes knows that's awkward, and they're the much more established legacy EV brand. So hats off to Mercedes for making the switch to NACS. Please, Lucid and Peter, rethink your angle on this whole NACS topic because it's just wrong. And let me know who you think will switch to NACS next in the comments below. Thank you to everybody supporting this channel directly. Seriously, helps us out a ton, as does just watching these videos. So thanks again. Have an excellent rest of your day.